In 1994, a Freddo cost 10 pence, a small chocolate frog that fit in a child's palm. You walked into a corner shop with a few coins from your mom's purse, slapped a 10-pence piece on the counter, and walked out with a Freddo. It was the universal currency of a British childhood, the pocket money benchmark, the one product every person in this country can remember the price of. Today, that same chocolate frog costs £1, 10 times the original price in 30 years. And if you think that is just normal inflation keeping pace with the economy, you have not done the maths. Because inflation has not risen tenfold since 1994. The cumulative rate of UK inflation over that period is roughly 130%. That means if the Freddo had tracked inflation honestly, it should cost about 23 pence today, not £1. The price of a Freddo has risen nearly 4 times faster than the actual rate of inflation. That gap, the chasm between what inflation justifies and what Cadbury actually charges, is the subject of this investigation. Because the Freddo is not just a chocolate bar. It is a case study in how the British confectionery industry has used a combination of shrinkflation, ingredient substitution, and corporate consolidation to turn your childhood treats into hollow, overpriced, chemically altered shadows of what they used to be. And nobody is talking about it because it is a chocolate frog, and we have been trained to think it is not serious enough to question. To understand what happened to the Freddo, you have to understand what happened to Cadbury, because the Freddo did not get expensive on its own. It got expensive because the company that makes it was swallowed by one of the largest food conglomerates on earth. In 2010, the American corporation Kraft Foods launched a hostile takeover bid for Cadbury. The British public was furious. Cadbury was a national institution. It was founded by Quakers in Birmingham in 1824. It built a model village for its workers called Bourneville. It was the chocolate company that felt like it belonged to Britain. Kraft promised during the acquisition that it would protect Cadbury's heritage, keep its factories open, and preserve the quality that made the brand beloved. Within months of completing the takeover, Kraft announced the closure of the Somerdale factory near Bristol, the very factory it had publicly pledged to keep open. Hundreds of workers lost their jobs. Kraft then split itself into 2 companies, and Cadbury landed under a new parent called Mondelez International, a name that sounds like a pharmaceutical corporation, because it essentially operates like one. Mondelez is not a chocolate company, it is a portfolio management company. It exists to extract maximum profit from legacy brands by reducing costs, increasing prices, and hoping that the emotional loyalty consumers feel toward the brand name will survive the slow degradation of the product itself. The Freddo is a perfect demonstration of that strategy. The first crime is the price itself. Let us trace the timeline. In 1994, a Freddo was 10 pence. By 2000, it was 15 pence. By 2005, it crept up to 20 pence. These increases roughly tracked inflation. Nobody complained because the maths felt fair. Then the acceleration began. By 2010, the year of the Kraft takeover, the Freddo hit 25 pence. By 2017, it was 30 pence. Then the price started jumping in larger increments. 35 pence, 50 pence. The psychological barriers were falling one by one, and then sometime around 2023, the Freddo crossed the £1 mark in many retailers. A tenfold increase on a product whose core ingredient, cocoa, has admittedly risen in price, but nowhere near enough to justify the trajectory. The industry will point to cocoa commodity prices, to sugar taxes, to rising energy costs and supply chain disruptions. These are real factors, but they apply equally to every confectionery product on the shelf, and the Freddo has outpaced nearly all of them in percentage price increase. The truth is that the Freddo occupies a unique psychological position. It is an impulse purchase. It is aimed at children. It sits at checkout level, eye height for a 6-year-old. And impulse products aimed at children are the most price inelastic products in the entire supermarket. A parent standing in the checkout queue with a tired child pulling a Freddo off the rack is not going to put it back over a 20 pence increase. They will pay it to stop the noise. Mondelez knows this. The Freddo's price is not set by the cost of cocoa. It is set by the pain threshold of an exhausted parent at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. The second crime is what they have done to the chocolate itself. If you are over 30, you remember what a Cadbury dairy milk tasted like in the 1990s. It had a rich, creamy, slightly tangy flavor that coated the roof of your mouth and lingered. That flavor came from a recipe that relied heavily on fresh milk and cocoa butter. Now pick up a Freddo today, snap it in half, and taste it carefully. It is sweeter. It is thinner on the palate. It does not melt the same way. That is not nostalgia playing tricks on your memory. The recipe has changed. After the Mondelez takeover, Cadbury made a series of quiet formulation adjustments across its product lines. The most significant was a shift in the fat composition. Traditional Cadbury chocolate used a higher proportion of cocoa butter, which is the natural fat extracted from the cocoa bean. Cocoa butter is expensive. It is what gives quality chocolate its snap, its gloss, and its smooth melt. Over time, formulations have increasingly relied on cheaper vegetable fats and refined sugar to hit the target cost per unit. The chocolate still meets the legal minimum to be called milk chocolate under British food standards, but the legal minimum is a floor, not a ceiling. You can produce a bar that legally qualifies as milk chocolate and still tastes nothing like what Cadbury was selling 30 years ago. The name on the wrapper has not changed. The chocolate inside has. The third crime is the size. This is the shrinkflation component that makes the price increase even more obscene than it already appears. The original Freddo weighed 20 grams. At various points over the past decade, the Freddo has quietly shrunk. The reduction is small enough in absolute terms that most consumers do not notice. But when you combine a size reduction with a price increase, the real cost per gram tells a devastating story. In 1994, you were paying roughly 50 pence per 100 grams of Cadbury chocolate when you bought a Freddo. Today, at £1 for a smaller bar, you are paying well over £5 per 100 grams. To put that in perspective, you can buy Tesco own brand Belgian dark chocolate for less than £1 per 100 grams. You are paying a premium of 5 to 6 times the going rate for basic chocolate because the product is shaped like a frog and wrapped in nostalgia. Mondelez is not selling you chocolate. They are selling you a memory, and they are charging you 5 times the market rate for it. The fourth crime is the checkout placement strategy. This is where the economics of the Freddo intersect with the architecture of retail manipulation. Confectionery companies pay supermarkets enormous sums for what the industry calls golden zone placement. The shelves immediately surrounding the checkout till, from knee height to child eye height, are the most expensive slots in the entire store. Products placed here are not chosen by the supermarket based on quality or customer demand. They are placed there by manufacturers who pay for the privilege. The Freddo's entire business model depends on this placement. It is not a product you walk into a shop planning to buy. It is a product you grab because it is there, because your child sees it, because the queue is long and the frog is shiny, and a pound feels like nothing when you are already spending £80 on groceries. This is called an unplanned purchase in retail psychology. The entire design of the product, the size, the shape, the child-friendly character, the bright purple wrapper, is optimized not for eating, but for grabbing. It is not a chocolate bar. It is a checkout tax on parents. The fifth crime is the broader pattern that the Freddo represents. Because this story is not really about one small chocolate frog. It is about what happens when a heritage brand is acquired by a multinational portfolio company with no emotional connection to the product or the consumer. The playbook is always the same. Step 1, acquire a beloved brand with deep consumer loyalty. Step 2, maintain the packaging, the name, and the nostalgic imagery. Step 3, quietly reduce ingredient quality to lower production costs. Step 4, gradually increase the price, testing consumer tolerance at each increment. Step 5, rely on the emotional equity of the brand to prevent consumers from switching to a competitor. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is standard private equity brand management. It is taught in business schools. And it works because consumers form emotional bonds with brands during childhood that persist into adulthood, regardless of whether the product still deserves that loyalty. You do not buy a Freddo because it is the best chocolate available for £1. You buy it because you remember what it meant when you were 7. Mondelez is monetizing your childhood at a rate of return that would make a hedge fund blush. Here is the verdict. The Freddo is the perfect barometer of everything that has gone wrong with the British food industry. A product that was once a genuine, affordable, high-quality treat for children has been acquired by a foreign conglomerate, reformulated with cheaper ingredients, reduced in size, inflated in price by nearly 1,000%, and strategically placed at checkout height to exploit the one consumer who cannot say no, a parent with a tired child. The Freddo is not expensive because cocoa is expensive. The Freddo is expensive because you will pay it. And until you stop paying it, the price will keep climbing. Next time you are in that checkout queue and the small hand reaches for the purple frog, do the maths. £1 for 15 grams of reformulated chocolate. That is not a treat. That is a toll. And the company collecting it is betting everything on the hope that you are too sentimental to notice. If you want to know which other childhood brands have been hollowed out and sold back to you at 10 times the price, watch the next one.